Oh, okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the
Recording
Board of
in
Retirement
progress.
for Wednesday, August 6th. We'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Jason, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, should I start? Thank you, Chair Robbins. This meeting is being conducted as a virtual and in-person meeting. So we'll do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Ms. Proft?
Here.
Mr. Razzo?
Present.
Ms. Langton? Here. Mr. Rue?
Here.
Ms. Fessler?
Here.
Mr. Oakham is here. Mr. Green?
Present.
Mr. Kehoe?
Present.
Mr. Robbins?
Present.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Okay, we don't have anybody participating under AB 2449. Staff participating today include the following: Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEO JJ Popovich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, CIO Deputy CIO Jude Perez, Division Manager Tamara Caldwell. We have Allison Barrett, Jason Waller, and Frank Boyd from the legal office. And we have two interns that are going to be presenting today, Jasmine Fang and Barita Pathek. And we have consultants, Tony Rhoda, Williams and Jensen, and Shane Doucet of Doucet Consulting Solutions. Trustees, please use your raise your hand option to be placed in the queue. At this time, yet all meeting participants to mute your mic until you're ready to speak. And now we may proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much. Item 4A, approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 10th. I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second.
Okay. Ms. Proft? Minutes. Okay. Mr. Razzo?
Aye.
Ms. Langton? Ms. Langton?
Oh, sorry. Aye.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Ms. Fessler?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Item 5 is public comment. We have one request from the public to address the board today.
Yes, so let me just move him into the meeting.
He is remote.
Yes, we have Vasily Bransinkas. Let me just move him. Vasily, can you hear us by any chance?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so you will have 3 minutes to address the board and you may start now.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Vasily Brasnikas, and I am an attorney with Seti Orchid Minor. My office represents county employee Daphne Poinsett. Now, while I could not appear in person for public comment, it's my understanding that LACERA's senior staff counsel, Francis Boyd, is present to speak during closed session, at least in part about my client's petition for writ of mandate in Superior Court regarding the dismissal of her disability retirement appeal. Ms. Poinsett has been employed by the County Public Defender's Office for 17 years. On May 8, 2009, she suffered a work-based injury. In July of 2019, the county submitted an application for disability retirement on her behalf. While Ms. Poinsett complied with the request for clarifying medical information and met with contracted evaluators, her application was nonetheless denied on January 5th, 2022. Ms. Poinsett thereafter appealed the denial of her application. And on September 24th, 2024, Ms. Poinsett, through my office, submitted her pre-hearing statement to staff counsel and the board-appointed referee, Irene Ayala. This is the first time my office has handled an appeal through LACERA, and so while we struggle to find substantial information on what is ultimately needed to be included in the pre-hearing statement, we endeavored to meet the requirements as laid out in Rule 5 of LACERA's procedures. At the time, my office had changed firm names and locations and did not have consistent access to a printer to print and mail Ms. Poinsett's voluminous exhibits. And seeing no prohibition against doing so in the procedures, we submitted the exhibits via thumb drive. Nonetheless, LACERA's counsel thereafter objected that there were deficiencies in the pre-hearing statement, including how exhibits were produced. And referee Ayala set up a conference on November 21st, 2024, excuse me. At the conference, despite contending that we had complied with Rule 5, as it is laid out in the procedures, did our best to seek out any information from LACERA we could find and could remedy any deficiencies in the pre-hearing statement, referee Ayala ruled that petitioner had failed to comply with Rule 5 and dismissed the appeal before Ms. Poinset's hearing could commence. She was instructed that her only recourse was to file a petition in the Superior Court of California, which she did on March 4th of this year. In conferring with Mr. Boyd on this matter in the pursuit of this petition, he's indicated that he would speak before the board on a potential settlement of the petition in which LACERA will return Ms. Poinset's appeal back to the referee. I'm providing public comment this morning to humbly ask the board to carefully consider this request as presented by Mr. Boyd. Despite any deficiencies in the pre-hearing statement, which we maintain can be remedied, we respectfully request that Ms. Poinsett not be punished to the extent that her appeal cannot even be heard in the hearing, as such an action would be severely prejudicial to her. I want to thank you immensely for allowing me the opportunity to speak this morning, and I eagerly await hearing the board's decision in this matter. Thank you, and I will yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We're on item 6, LACERA All-Stars, JJ.
Thank you very much, Chair Robbins, and good morning, trustees. So each month we take a moment to recognize LACERA staff who have been nominated by their fellow staff members for going above and beyond the call of duty or helping each other. And sorry about that. Is that better? Okay, let's try this again. So each month we take a moment to recognize LACERA staff who have been nominated by their fellow staff members for going above and beyond the call of duty and helping each other out or helping members out. This month, we recognize the staff members that you see on your screen: Emma Beldelin, Brian Durant, Samantha Garcia, and Sandra Carbajal. And our web watcher this month is Jeffrey Shevlowitz. Thank you very much, everybody, for everything that you do. Greatly appreciate it. And with your permission, I'll move on to the member spotlight. So the member spotlight is a way for LACERA to recognize the constituents or the public servants that serve the constituents of LA County. It's an opportunity for all of us to reflect on what we do and why we do what we do, and to make sure that we are here to serve our members and empower them to enjoy a healthy and secure retirement. And so this month, we're recognizing Chris Fedoroff, who is an official court reporter for the Court Support Services Division of LA Superior Court, who has 27 years of service. He is set to retire this Friday, I believe, after those 27 years. One of the things that stuck out to me when I was reading this particular one, that we maybe don't think about what court reporters do, but under special job skills, he listed he's certified by the state of California to transcribe 4 simultaneous speakers at 200 words per minute with 95% accuracy. So keeping track of 4 people's conversation ongoing at the same time, that's a tremendous skill. So he has a lot of interesting hobbies. He enjoys making music at his home studio, and he's looking forward to his retirement. So we thank Mr. Fedoroff for everything that he does. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, JJ. And again, good morning, Trustee Robbins and trustees, I should say. A few updates from the CEO report. Safety member election update. Safety election voting began on August 4th. It will continue through August 29th. And we expect candidate notification and preliminary results to occur September 9th, with ultimately the Board of Supervisors certifying elections towards the latter part of October. LACERA Summit, theme is Values in Action. Again, the summit for all of our staff members is scheduled to take place September 18th at the Lake Avenue Church. We're pretty excited about the event. It's going to be the first time that all staff are going to be together in one room, one place. So the theme is Values in Action, reinforcing our mission and values. And it's going to be an opportunity, obviously, for cross-divisional engagement and participation, and look forward to seeing trustees there as well. Update on recruitment. We closed our RBS 1 recruitment. It's the largest recruitment at LACERA in terms of number of applicants, as well as number of individuals that we onboard. We're gearing up for another busy season here in the next few months with our member service team, and we look forward to hopefully onboarding between 15 and 20 team members to the RBS class in the coming months. This is an important class because it allows us, once this class graduates, to then backfill critical positions in the more senior positions like RBS 3, senior RBS, and section head. So we're looking forward to getting that class onboarded. And then there'll be a more detailed update at the ACRE committee, but we did get word from the county CEO's office, I should say, that our chief ethics and compliance officer will go through the board of supervisors process for approval, for finalization, I should say. So we're excited about that. The collaborative work with legal, HR, and the county CEO's office, class and comp team proved fruitful. So appreciate the board's support for that position. And again, more detailed report will be provided at the ACRE committee. And lastly, we talked about last month, the lifetime maximum benefit. While it increased to 1.5 million in July, we engaged the county CEO's office on the elimination of the lifetime max. A memo went out to the county CEO a few weeks ago, and we expect a response by August 18th. So we should be providing a board with an update there as it relates to the lifetime max. We are going to be starting our negotiations with carriers in the next few months. So it's critical that we have that item addressed as it relates to the lifetime max for Anthem participants. And with that, Chair Robbins, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Just one, and I'm sorry, I was not here for a second, but are you going for 2 million now? I mean, the 1.5 million, that's been approved. So what are you going to do with the CEO's office?
So our request is a full elimination. One of the things, and we talked about this previously, is the migration data was a big sticking point for the county as it relates to cost. And we've proven that that's not the case, that members will migrate out of other plans into the Anthem plan. So our goal is hopefully they eliminate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Louis. We're now on item 7, disability retirement applications on the consent agenda. The first batch are sheriff's cases, 700E through 719E. I need a motion.
I'd make the motion.
Motion and a second.
Ms. Croft,
Approve.
Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton. Aye. Mr. Root,
Yep.
Ms. Fessler,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
and Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next group are safety are fire and lifeguards, cases 1981B through 1988B. Need a motion?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Croft,
Aye.
Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton. Aye. Mr. Root,
Yes.
Ms. Fessler,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
and Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Next group are general members on the consent agenda. Cases 2969C through 2982C. Need a motion.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Croft. Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton. Mr. Root,
Yes.
Ms. Fessler,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
and Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
And the last case was for a non-service connected disability case 4516. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second. Okay, Ms. Croft,
Aye.
Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton, Mr. Root,
Yes.
Ms. Fessler,
Yes.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
and Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We're now on to consent items A through E. 8A through E. I need a motion for A through E.
Okay, Ms. Croft,
Aye.
Mr. Raza?
Aye.
Ms. Langton? Aye. Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Fessler?
Yes.
Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Item 9, items excluded from the consent agenda. We
None.
have none. We're now on item 10, reports. A, federal legislative and regulatory update. 10A, Tony Rhoda is here.
Thank you, Chair Robbins and trustees. So today we have Tony Rhoda from Williams and Jensen and Shane Doucet from Doucet Consulting Solutions, our federal legislative advocates, who will give us an educational update on all that's been happening at the federal level. So I will hand this on to Tony and he'll share his screen for the presentation.
Thank you, Barry. Am I on? I think I am. Chairman Robbins,
It's not
members
on.
of the board. I'm not on. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Chairman Robbins, members of the board, staff, and guests. It's a pleasure to be here with Barry. And it's been a privilege to represent LACERA in Washington, D.C. since 2018 now. So I have enjoyed the relationship and I think we're making progress. So let me go through a few slides and then I will shift it to Shane Doucet to talk about healthcare. And he is in a remote location on the other side of the country. But Shane was able to be here at the last board meeting. I could not. So we are doing a shift. So Washington seems to be enamored a little bit with Hollywood because they're entering an era of sequels, it seems. And on the Secure Act, on heavy retirement legislation, significant retirement legislation, we're up to the Secure Act 3.0. And pieces are starting to come into place as to what that might look like. We're also on the reconciliation front, and I'll give you a little more detail about reconciliation, but it is the primary vehicle that parties use in Washington when they control the presidency in both chambers of Congress. It allows them to pass legislation in the Senate, bypassing a filibuster with a simple majority vote of 51, or a tiebreaker by the vice president. So it is a critical tool. It's been used already by the administration and the Congress in the Reconciliation Act that was signed into law on July 4th. And there are plans underway to create a second round of reconciliation for this calendar year. So that's going to weave into a lot of the discussion I'm going to partake in, and Shane will as well. And I'm going to talk about 3 buckets of activity: tax legislation, tax regulatory guidance, and Social Security. And on the tax front, I already mentioned a little bit about reconciliation. That's going to be the primary tool that Congress looks to enact new tax legislation. The rules around reconciliation, however, are not unlimited, and you cannot bring into a reconciliation bill something that does not affect revenues in either direction or spending in either direction, something that is pure policy. And as we saw, and I know Shane will talk about in the healthcare context, a lot of pure policy provisions dropped out in the Senate when the parliamentarian scrubbed the bill. And it also cannot amend Social Security, which is, of course, a benefit to those who rely on that program. So again, I mentioned that 60 votes you don't need to get in the Senate. You can just do it by a simple majority. So what we look for in tax legislation for the public pension community are some negative things. We're not really in the position of playing offense yet, although we'll see what opportunities present themselves on the Reconciliation 2.0. The biggest piece of defense we play is on the unrelated business income tax. Why is that a threat? Because it passed a Republican-controlled House in 2017. And the provision that passed in 2017 that did not make it into law would have subjected state and local governmental plans specifically to the unrelated business income tax. And at the time, the analysis of what investments would be impacted, certainly anything that's debt financed, that's already in the regulations under UBIT, as well as some private equity, where it looks like you have an ownership interest as opposed to just a passive investment interest. very murky, however, as to what the reach would be. As I mentioned, it passed the House with a very low revenue score at the time, 1.1 billion over 10 years, hardly a drop in the water today. It'll be rescored, and it could be much higher, especially with plans investing more of their assets in private equity. So the rescore will definitely make it more attractive. How much, I don't know. In the first round of reconciliation, there were no mentions of UBIT, which is very favorable. A second piece we'd look at, not so much in reconciliation, but possibly in a retirement bill, is this notion of allowing private sector workers into public plans. And this specific bill is introduced by a member from North Carolina in the House, and it only has North Carolina co-sponsors at the moment. It's clearly designed for some constituent base of volunteer firefighters who want into the North Carolina state plan. I feel like it's camel's nose under the tent, because I think more and more, if this were to be enacted in its little isolated volunteer firefighters way, it wouldn't be long before other groups came to Congress and said, look, we're quasi-government. We look a lot like what these guys are, and we should be in public plans as well, or at least allowed to be. And what would happen is you would face tremendous pressure at the state legislative level to allow these folks into your plans. So we're keeping an eye on it. I don't see it as a huge threat in reconciliation, certainly, because it's not going to affect revenues. Rothification. So the simplicity of Rothification for a defined contribution plan is you make your Roth contribution with after-tax dollars, and that distribution, it is exempt from tax. It's the reverse of a traditional account where you do pre-tax contribution and your distribution is taxable. The reason Congress likes Roth is because you're paying tax up front and they bring the revenue into their 10-year budget window. So it's a revenue raiser for them, even though they're foregoing revenue into the future. They only look at the first 10-year window. Rothification was a big player in Secure 2.0 to help finance that bill. They did Rothify, which is not a word, but used as a word. They did Rothify catch-up contributions for those at a certain income level. And it's quite possible Congress could come back and say, we're just going to Rothify all catch-up contributions. We're keeping an eye on it closely. It's not a defined benefit plan issue. There are certain anomalies also for defined contribution plans, 403Bs and 457Bs that Congress could look at. Maybe. I don't know that the revenue gain would be that great for it to be attractive. There are some first responder issues. In the beginning, I said, we'll look for opportunities to play offense. Well, as you probably know, the HELPS exclusion, so healthcare enhancement for local public safety, is part of the tax code today, and it allows retired first responders to exclude up to $3,000 of income that is used to pay premiums for long-term care or healthcare. And it used to be, prior to Secure 2.0, we worked on this in Washington, that the fund, the pension plan, had to pay the premiums, which caused all kinds of administrative concerns. And the number of plans in the country just said, look, for those who want to do it that way, let them keep doing it that way. But isn't there a way we can change the law to allow, if the distribution comes to the retiree, that they could pay the premium, take advantage of the tax credit? So that was done. The $3,000 annual cap hasn't been changed since 2006. So I would love to say your healthcare premiums and your long-term care premiums haven't changed since 2006. That is not the case. So this $3,000 number cries out for a major increase. And I know the groups in Washington, the first responder groups, are looking closely at this. And there's also a proposal by a senator from Colorado who's on the Finance Committee, so he is well placed to move it, to create a kind of a parallel tax credit. You could take advantage of one or the other in the tax year if this were to become law, but it's slightly more generous than the current $3,000. Some additional tax issues really haven't seen a lot of push behind a HELPS-like benefit for all public servants. That was a piece of legislation introduced years ago by Congressman Crowley. If you remember Congressman Crowley of New York, he was defeated by AOC in the primary. But Congressman Crowley did have this legislation. He said, look, if we're doing helps for public safety, we should do it for everybody. That has not occurred. The Savers Match is something that was done in 2.0, Secure 2.0. It becomes effective not until 2027. It replaces the kind of complicated Savers credit. So it would be a match for lower income earners who make contributions to retirement plans. It'll be a match right from the Treasury Department. If you'd like to dig into that subject, that's the Treasury notice is referenced there. There is a misalignment. Right now, if you make a contribution to a Roth account, it does qualify you for the credit. However, the credit, the match, the federal match can't be made to a Roth account. So for plans like CalSavers, other statewide plans for private sector workers, it's not quite where it needs to be in the law, and that could be changed. There's so much on regulatory guidance still from Secure 2.0. I mean, I've talked a little bit about mandatory Roth catch-up already, so I don't have to spend time on that. There is the provision that allows for an employer to treat an employee's student loan payment as if that were a contribution to a retirement plan, so that purposes of the employer match. It's a very generous provision, a little complicated. There's greater latitude on overpayments, and when plan trustees and fiduciaries need to collect overpayments, Congress has provided flexibility to say your plan won't be disqualified automatically if you fail to recoup. But you have to do so in terms of your fiduciary responsibilities. You have to look at the breadth of the overpayment and whether you do need to go after that money. EPCRS, I'll skip down a bit here. EPCRS is the corrections program. So when you've made a plan distribution error, Congress and the administration they're really trying to allow more self-correction for plans, which is very good. And then of historical vintage in italics, honestly, these things have been around so long now. Will the administration, Treasury, and IRS ever get back to defining what a governmental plan is? Right now, I would say it's so back burner as to not be too concerned about it. And then normal retirement age, again, another back burner issue. And you can operate off of the proposed regulation. So you have the safe harbors you need for normal retirement age. But there's a lot of regulatory guidance that the administration can do. And then the third bucket, before I turn it over to Shane, Congress has repealed weapon GPO. Let's go to that. WEP affected your benefit, GPO affected survivor benefit and spousal benefits. I probably told you Congress would never do this. I'm sure I was not alone in telling people that, but the stars aligned, and I'm very happy to have been wrong in that case. But Congress did put that together at the end of 2024. They took some votes, interesting votes, to try to pare it back. There was not an appetite to pare it back. It was full repeal or nothing. The interesting vote, I would say, is the one bolded at the very end there. Senator Grassley, and takes us to our next Social Security topic, which is mandatory Social Security. Senator Grassley of Iowa had an amendment which said, well, okay, you want to be out of WEP and GPO. Well, if you are that employer who wants to take advantage of this, then you have to enroll all of your employees in the Social Security program, start paying FICA taxes, etc. That was not voted on. So Senator Grassley withdrew the amendment to fight for another day, save it for another day, maybe a better climate, because you could see the way these votes were going that it was repeal or nothing. So we'll see if Senator Grassley comes back on mandatory Social Security. The numbers, make it attractive here. The third bullet, the last CBO score was $132 billion in new revenues, and that was just from the new hires. So, and they'll look at that 10-year budget window again. So that makes Congress say, yeah, what's 100 plus billion we could put into making the Social Security program more solvent. But that comes with a caveat, because just like the Roth, you take the dollars now and you forego the taxes in the future. Well, you take the premiums, the FICA payments now, but you have to pay the benefits. So again, it's just money into the budget window, but over long term, it doesn't do much for the solvency of the program. And then comprehensive Social Security reform, Congress put, or the Social Security trustees and the Medicare trustees put 2033 as the year for insolvency. And what that means is not that it's going to cut out completely, but it's going to be greatly reduced benefit. But 2033 to Congress is like a lifetime away. They're not looking at solving problems that are going to occur in 2033. The only person who could change that is the president. And I don't think he's going to spend time on this, but you cannot tell with him what he will shift to. So if suddenly he wakes up and says, I want to do Social Security reform, I think this current Congress will head down that road with him. And this allows me to shift to Shane because of Senator Bill Cassidy. Shane's a good friend and fellow Louisianan, is trying to think outside the box, and he has a proposal to create a sovereign wealth fund for Social Security. So it would provide the same benefits, but it would be funded in a different way, and more like a model that public pensions use with the trust fund assets. So with that, I'll shift. And Shane,
Can I ask you a question?
of course,
If they did that, who would manage it?
the details are not all in place.
I mean, could they manage something like that?
The Department of the Treasury would probably manage it with the Fed and others, but
That would be a little scary, wouldn't it? Yeah.
well, it depends what restrictions and guardrails are put in place. But yes, an enormous trillion plus asset base, yes. And Shane, are you hearing me?
I am, yes. So
All
thank
right,
you.
the floor
Thank you,
is
Tony.
yours.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman and trustees, good morning. I want to echo Tony's statement and let you know how much I've enjoyed working with you all and Tony since 2018. On my last visit before you all, we had a significant vote on WEP and GPO in the House, and we just didn't know what was going to go, in the Senate. And when I walked in the room to do my presentation, I think I had 3 staff members tackle me about WEP and GPO. And then as I sat before you, we immediately went to WEP and GPO, and I think I heard from the entire board in almost disbelief that if the Senate couldn't take a vote on a bill that passed the House overwhelmingly. And I want to thank you for all the feedback that you gave Tony and I that day. You lit a fire, under me in particular, and I happened to be with Chairman Bill Cassidy, who Tony just mentioned, from the other LA, Louisiana. And it was about 2 weeks after the presentation. And I told the senator, I said, I wish you would have been in my chair before the board of LACERA and saw the faces as they talked about their personal experiences with WEP and GPO. And to be so close, it would be a shame that the Senate didn't take it up. Well, Senator Cassidy went with Susan Collins of Maine to actually lead the Republican whip for that overwhelming vote. And they defeated some of the poison-pilled amendments that Tony referenced, the Grassley Amendment and others, to make sure we had a clean vote on that. I was with Chairman Cassidy last week with the Louisiana Sheriff's Association, and I had a sheriff come up to him and said, I just want you to know that my mother, who is a teacher, reached out to me several weeks ago, and she received a lump sum money from Social Security and thought it was a scam. And I said, no, Mom, it's not a scam. This is called the WEP reform. And he personally thanked, the senator, and it made a real impact on him. So you made a real impact on me, and I really appreciated that. And I think we all benefited from it, and we'll stay on this issue of Social Security just real quickly, because we also need to make sure it's healthy so that you continue to get what you paid into the system. And basically, more money has been going out than has been going in. So Senator Cassidy, along with Tim Kaine, a Democrat from Virginia, they've offered a bill that would try to create a sovereign wealth fund. Basically, if we don't do anything in 8 years, the Social Security Trust Fund will be empty. And we're looking at somewhere between a 21 to 25% cut for current and future beneficiaries. So what Senator Cassidy is trying to do is to set up an investment fund that would be separate from Social Security. And it would require about 1.5 trillion placed in this fund for over 5 years that would be basically invested in the economy. The money would be borrowed in it, but it actually wouldn't impact our debt because it's in escrow, so we'd always be able to pay it off if needed. And this is something that we have done in other countries, but we've also done it in the United States. The federal government is currently doing this for railroad retirement system. And they're getting somewhere in the average of 8.9%, 9.2% return. This was set up back with President George W. Bush when he was in office. So we've done it before. And whether or not we get to this, Social Security reform under our current president, I don't know right now. But I know, given where we are and that we're looking at hitting this mark 3 years earlier because of the recent report that we have, I think members do want to see something get done on it. And I think this is something that will get serious attention. And it seems to be the only big reform effort right now that's there. So that's just a little brief. I'm happy to have the staff from Senator Cassidy or even the senator, I think, would love to talk a little bit more about this. If y'all are interested down the road, I'd be happy to set that up for you and the staff. Okay, so let's go to healthcare. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we recently did in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. You heard a lot about it over the last couple of months, in particular with Medicaid. I'll also talk to you a little bit about drug pricing, rural hospitals, physician payments, Affordable Care Act, some other components, and then the impact potentially on Medicare from the reconciliation bill that Tony had referred to. I'll also talk to you a little bit about Trump administration policies that we've been sort of reporting to you in our weekly, including the most favored nation drug pricing that Trump rolled out a few months ago, and then something that's been in the news lately, vaccines with Secretary Kennedy and what's going on there. We'll also touch a little bit about the Medicare solvency. When the Social Security Trust Fund came out with a report, it also includes Medicare Part A. We'll talk to you a little bit about where we see things going with that, and then what's the likelihood of seeing something in an end of year healthcare package as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so overall health impact of the One Beautiful Bill Act, we saw about $1.1 trillion being cut in federal healthcare programs. Most of that came through Medicaid. The CBO projected that the law will actually add about 3.3 trillion to our national deficit, and I'll talk to you about how that could potentially impact Medicare. CBO also said that we could see about 10 million more Americans become uninsured over the next decade. That's largely due to some of the Medicaid requirements and cuts, and also the impact to the Affordable Care Act. And this really probably was sort of the largest change that we've seen to U.S. healthcare really since we did pass the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, back in 2010, excuse me. Next slide, please.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Was the 1.1 billion, is that a year or is that over 10 years?
Over 10 years, less.
I mean, trillion, yeah. Over
I'm
10.
sorry. Yes, sir. Over 10 years. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, so Medicaid overall, let's just kind of 30,000 foot real quick about Medicaid. So right now, we probably have about 80 million Americans that are on Medicaid or CHIP. That's the Children's Health Insurance Program, about 23% of our population. As you know, Medicaid is a federal state partnership, and every state sort of has a different approach, including your state, Medi-Cal, to how they set that up. And in California, about 1/3 of Californians are actually enrolled in your Medicaid program, which is known as Medi-Cal. And then Medicaid, provides coverage mainly to low-income adults, children, pregnant women, individuals that are 65 and older. Medicare usually only offers limited coverage for like nursing homes or for short-term stays, and usually that's going to be about 100 days. And when you run out of that funding, it's Medicaid if you qualify for Medicaid for your skilled nursing. Medicaid also helps with people with disabilities, but it's also an income and asset threshold for that, and every state's different on how they do that. Medicaid is supported. As I mentioned, the federal government pays states a federal medical assistant percentage that's known as FMAP. And that means that for a state with like 60% FMAP spending $200 on Medicaid services, the federal government would cover $120 or 60% of the cost. California's FMAP has been generally around 50%, which is the lowest the federal government can provide under current law. When we passed the Affordable Care Act that I referenced in 2010, we expanded Medicaid with the federal government covering 90% of medical costs for individuals who become eligible for coverage in expansion states. We had 40 states plus DC take the federal government up on that 90% back in 2014, and California was one of them. And we have about 5 million Californians that were enrolled in that expansion when we did it in 2014. When we're looking to finance Medicaid, it's usually done through state taxes and provider taxes is a means to do that. And how that works is that states will basically level taxes on hospitals, hospices, and other care providers. And this is actually a tax that hospitals want because in turn, the state gets more money that they can spend on Medicaid, and the federal government will match that spend. So it's a means that states have been able to do to help finance their programs and expand their programs and actually pay hospitals more on what they cover under Medicaid services. So what the new law will do is sort of rein in the ability to do that with states, and it sort of lowers the amount that states would be able to actually go and do that financing. And this has been a big piece for Medicaid financing. Next slide. So as a result of the cuts to Medicaid, a lot of the safety net hospitals have complained and said, we have a majority of our patients that are on Medicaid. A lot of them are rural. We're going to be severely impacted. States like West Virginia, Alaska, where they have a high Medicaid population. So what the senators did, particularly from those states, is that they included a relief fund of about $15 billion for states that would help some of the rural hospitals, in particular the safety net hospitals, be able to recoup some of the money that would be potentially lost through the Medicaid cuts. So about $50 billion was included in the reconciliation bill. Next slide, please. Other payments that are made to MCOs, most Medicaid programs in all the states are managed by commercial plans, just like Medicare Advantage plans. They have the same thing set up. They're called MCOs, managed care organizations. And so states can sometimes give additional money to some of these plans to help with certain services that they provide. And basically the bill will also impact the ability of states to provide some of that funds too. Again, more cuts going directed to Medicaid. Next slide, please. Medicaid eligibility rules. So there was a rule that was finalized in 2023 that was aiming to help lower income Medicare beneficiaries use Medicaid benefits to cover premiums through Medicare saving programs, allowing states to disqualify beneficiaries receiving long-term care services through Medicaid if they have equity in a home exceeding 1 million instead of 750,000. States are now required to conduct eligibility redeterminations at least every 6 months, and then retroactive eligibility period for Medicaid will be reduced from 90 days to 30 days, meaning that Medicaid will only cover medical expenses incurred within 30 days prior to application. Other eligibility, requirements that are going to be put on Medicaid beneficiaries will be work requirements. Those will start in January of 2027. Most of the cuts that I talked to you about for Medicaid will actually start December 31st in 2026. We see a lot of restrictions also on legal status for citizens qualifying for Medicaid and everything. So when you look at the overall cuts and then eligibility requirements, especially work requirements, it's going to be a nightmare, I think, for a lot of states to constantly go through and verify eligibility, work requirements, and other things that'll probably end up impacting that 10 million number that CBO said that they anticipate are going to lose their insurance. Next slide, please.
May I ask a question, Jay?
Yes, sir, Les.
And I don't want this to be political.
Mhm.
But what are we doing with the fraud in all of these programs? Are we going after the fraud? And I'm not sure. I mean, the fraud is rampant. I know, you read that they got these people and those people for a bunch of money. Are we really going after that? Are they making a decision which then would help Medicare and help Medicaid? Now, the next question I have, all right, is you said 80 million Americans are getting hurt with Medicaid, okay? And then there's a work restriction that doesn't start to January 1st of 27. Have they put any laws in there about reducing what they're doing for people who are not citizens of this country so they can use that money for citizens? Because here I'm hearing all this stuff about 80 million people, but if we work on those 80 million people by not paying non-citizens, it would reduce that number, I think, drastically. So those are two things. I don't know if you have any idea about either one of them, but if you do, I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about fraud in particular, and again with Senator Cassidy on a bill that they're trying to do in particular with Medicare. But the Republicans, President Trump, largely said that they're going after fraud, waste, and abuse. But what we're seeing here, to me, is not so much fraud, waste, and abuse, that it is basically gutting the Medicaid program. That we're seeing on the citizenship and illegal immigrants front. I think you could say they're doing their best to filter those programs where you could see a savings at the federal side, but really kind of looking at it through the verification process to eligibility that they're going to be requiring to do on almost a monthly basis. That in a sense could be, again, making sure that someone is who they say they are and that they meet these requirements. It is very difficult to actually qualify for Medicaid. I've done pro bono work for folks that are fully disabled, but they still may have assets and other things that they may need to spend down to meet and qualify for Medicaid and other things of that nature. So I would say maybe a third of some of the policies I've seen in it will probably help a little bit on the savings and the fraud, waste, and abuse. But I think largely it just sort of, is gutting, the program in itself with some of these cuts, especially the financing, that's made available. And where it's going to impact us, potentially, we'd hope that none of our retirees would have to go through and be eligible for Medicaid, but it could cut access to hospital systems and others that may have to, shut down because of, the cuts that they may see largely at their safety net hospitals. Okay, so just sort of continuing, again, I've talked about eligibility with the Affordable Care Act. that there was a measure that would limit the categories for non-citizens eligible for premium tax credits. The bill would also prohibit ACA beneficiaries who enroll during income-based special enrollment periods from collecting the tax credits. We had a premium tax credit that we did during the COVID period that's about to expire. One of the things that we've heard from, if some of these people lose their Medicaid, then where are they going to go? They're going to go to the Obamacare exchanges, the Affordable Care Act exchanges, but then they may need help. And now you're limiting their premium tax credits. So the Democrats, Schumer introduced a bill this week that all the Senate Democrats have signed on to extend premium tax credits that would help low-income individuals and families be able to purchase health insurance on the exchanges. One of the other issues I've talked to you about that's a perennial issue is the doc fix. The doctors always complain they don't get paid enough. So there was a provision included in the bill that will help physicians as well for 2026. Next slide, please. So overall impact, on California, unless Congress asked, Medicare could actually see a cut as a result of what we did, and that has to do with the law's deficit. It triggers a potential cut to Medicare. Now, do I think 500 billion in cuts are going to happen between 2026 and 2034? No, I do not. I think probably Congress will just waive, that budget act. But people have mentioned that Medicare could potentially see cuts, and technically it could, given how we've written some of our budget laws. We have about 14 million children and adults who are enrolled in California's Medicaid program. And California receives about 81 billion a year in Medicaid funding. So we're looking at about 164 billion loss over 10 years, about 16 billion a year potentially that could impact California as a result of this. CAP estimates that older couples with an annual income of just 21,000 could face up to about 8,000 more in additional healthcare costs per that year. I've mentioned to you long care facilities. These are like skilled nursing that most of their funding comes through Medicaid. They may struggle as a result of this law, and we could see a lot of safety net skilled nursing facilities close as a result of it. And there's been some studies that suggested, that sort of identified where some of those closures could happen across the country. Next slide, please. So the Trump administration, a couple of months ago, rolled out what's called the Most Favored Nation drug pricing strategy. And that's basically in which pharmaceutical companies selling drugs in the U.S. would be required to match the lowest price paid by other countries. I read the executive order when it came out. It literally looked like an 8th grader wrote it. It provided, no, real guidance on how this would actually go into effect. It was one of the worst EOs I've ever read. And when they touted the EO, the president said, we'll see almost immediately 50 to 80 to 90%, reductions in drug prices, etc. But again, nothing ever came out of it, and there was no really, any further guidance, from this. So what's basically happening is that other, administration officials, like at CMS, or in the case of FDA, they've all been told, okay, you need to do this, and they're all kind of looking at each other. How do we do it? So, on July 12th, FDA Commissioner Marty Makary, he floated an idea that the FDA would fast track new drugs for pharmaceutical companies that equalize the cost of their medicines between the U.S. and other countries. So this would be something novel. The FDA has never really gone into price controls. They usually just sort of approve drugs for safety and efficacy. But this sort of shows you sort of the at-the-hip approach that Trump administration is doing on drug pricing. And it's sort of scattered, and everyone's still trying to read the tea leaves if we're ever going to see, real results of it. So we'll continue to monitor this, but there really hasn't been anything that's come out of it. Next slide, please. Yes, sir.
Shane, if I could just add, but the president is talking about using tariffs on this to leverage.
Yes.
price reductions.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
today he said up to 250%.
Yes.
So I'll go to the next slide for you. Vaccines.
Yes. So the last time I was before you, again, I told you to take a picture of the CDC vaccine recommendations because you may not see it again. And I think I was somewhat accurate on that, at least as it relates to COVID-19. We were all wondering where, Secretary Kennedy was going to go, given all of some of his vaccine skepticism and statements over the years. And we're starting to see this kind of happen. He on May 27th, without waiting for his committee to come out with their recommendations, he announced he's going to remove the CDC's recommendations for children and healthy pregnant women who get vaccinated for COVID-19. And then on June 19th, he just decided to remove all 17 members of his CDC advisory committee. And we think he's probably not going to stop there. He's also looking at probably targeting the U.S. Preventative Task Force, which is sort of another committee that is made up of medical experts who served for 4 years. And they basically provide, they go through reams of scientific evidence and they make recommendations on services such as cancer screenings, HIV prevention medications, and things like that. And if they come out, with a recommendation of grade A, then health plans have to cover it as preventative services and not charge you anything. So it's a big deal when these recommendations have come out. And media reports have been coming out the last couple of weeks. And Kennedy, said on Monday that he's reviewing whether to actually remove all the members of this advisory committee. So we'll sort of continue to monitor where Kennedy goes, with some of this, but some of these things could have a real impact on the health of our members. Next slide, please. Okay, so Medicare, we mentioned, Tony mentioned Social Security, and when that report came out, it also includes Medicare. If you can go back, sorry, to the other slide. Yeah. So the trustees came out and showed that the insolvency estimates for the Medicare Hospital Insurance Trust Fund that pays for Part A inpatient care is actually going to be 3 years earlier and actually hit it in 2033. So that would mean that only 89% of scheduled benefits would be paid out in 2033. And this impacts Part A. So that's your hospital, that's your hospice, your skilled nursing, all come from that part of the program. So this is something that we're going to have to continue to monitor and see, along with Social Security, on how we could shore up the Part A trust fund kind of going forward. The reason for this has really been increases, in pricing for hospitals and hospice care, and so Medicare Part A is funded through payroll taxes, so that's one way you can quickly deal with that, or you just have to reduce the spend on Medicare, or you have to save money, to Les's point, on fraud, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Next slide, please. So Senator Cassidy, who chairs the HELP committee, he's looking to craft a bipartisan sort of end-of-year bill that could incorporate things such as dealing with the doc fix, PBM reforms, which we talked to you a lot, pharmacy benefit managers, and Medicare telehealth flexibilities. A lot of things that he wants to do in this bill, we almost got done in the lame duck back in December of 2024 when we were dealing with the WEP issue. And if you recall, Elon Musk and others didn't like that healthcare package. And so they pulled that healthcare package. And so that was sort of, Congress's last attempt at doing an end of year package to do that. Now, Les, you talked about, fraud and everything, going on with some of the programs. So Senator Cassidy, along with Jeff Merkley, they've introduced a bill that would try to improve the way Medicare Advantage plans determine a patient's health risk. It's called the No Upcode Act. It's a bipartisan bill. And basically, what we've seen, over the years is that MA plans have garnered scrutiny for basically making some of their beneficiaries look sicker than they appear, and this gets them a higher reimbursement. A couple of weeks ago, we learned that United Healthcare is under federal investigation for their Medicare program. The Department of Justice hasn't said what exactly they're looking into, but the media, in this case, the Wall Street Journal, has cited that it basically is going to be based on how the doctors and nurses are coding some of their patients and getting billions of dollars in return. So this bill would basically say, for Medicare Advantage plans, you need to look at 2 years of how you care for a patient instead of 1 year. That would help perhaps prevent the MA plans from gaming the system to make their patients look, more sicker than they are. And they think that this could save, the CBO said that this bill could save $124 billion over 10 years if it was passed. So Senator Cassidy wants to include his upcoding legislation in this end of the year bill. So, and it has bipartisan support, and it does truly deal with fraud, waste, and abuse. So that would be a major component, I think, if we see anything, at the end of the year. So with that, I think that covers my healthcare.
Thank you very much. That's about enough mind-numbing information for 1 year. I mean, there's so much information there to try to get your arms around. It's just, it's beyond mind-numbing.
It's true. It's true.
Nobody knows the answers to any of those questions, except we're in for a real interesting trip.
Mr. Chair, if I may, thank you guys for the presentation. It's really good stuff. I think you guys really put a good package together, and because it is a lot. And but yeah, that Grassley mandatory Social Security, we definitely something we want to pay attention to, because we had our legal look at it, and it's not good for public pension systems and whatnot. Post PEPRA and then hired. So
Absolutely.
so it's we definitely want to keep dibs on it as much as possible. So
We will do so.
appreciate it. Thanks.
Appreciate the presentation. It was excellent and a lot of information. The only concern I have is the fast tracking of medication in order to try and reduce costs. That seems like we're risking safety for money, and a little concerning to me. And also, all this ironically has direct impact on many of our investments, because some of our investments are to counteract this or to do things and make investment returns off of some of this decision making, which may impact that long-term investment. So a lot of good information for all of us here on the boards.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Good morning and thank you. Appreciate the updates. I read through all the materials and I just had one thought about the lobbying efforts and what's being done and how some of that has been very successful. Would it be helpful, based on the comments that were made today, to have representatives from these boards have interaction? Or I understand that there's an annual visit that's done. The timing of legislation is really obviously important. So I'm just wondering if there is additional support that's needed to help continue to convey the board's position on some of these really important issues.
I think so. And I think it's very critical. And, there's nothing more compelling for a member of Congress than to have his constituent in front of him or her. And to make the trip from here to there, she really shows your seriousness. So yeah, I think we should look at more frequent visits to Washington. And you have a delegation that is well positioned to help. I mean, absolutely. And then we can broaden that out with some of our contacts as well.
Through the chair, if I may, and Trustee Proft, as Tony mentioned, we have an annual visit, but proactively we have Barry here that represents and does a lot of work on the legislative side, both locally and also at the federal level. But proactively, I know there's been times the board has invited legislators. I know Shane Doucette mentioned on having a senator come by as well, but there's a lot of different things we can do from an engagement standpoint and lobbying standpoint on behalf of the board. So certainly appreciate that interest. I'll make sure Barry puts together some information to make sure that the board is aware of the different avenues that they can be involved with collectively. So appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
We are now on item B, the summer legal internship with LACERA.
They're here.
Oh, wow.
Good morning,
Hey, Jean Kim,
trustees.
Steve.
Good morning, Chairman Robbins. My name is Jean Kim, and I'm Senior Benefits Counsel. Today, our two legal interns, Prajita Patek and Jasmine Fang, will be sharing their capstone presentations where they will describe some of the key projects that they worked on this summer. This year, we had a record number of applicants to our internship program. I was told it was double what we've seen in prior years. And Jasmine and Aprajita were two of our top picks, and they did not disappoint. At the start of the summer, I met with each of them, and together we identified what would make it a successful summer internship. We agreed that this would essentially mean three things. One, getting the opportunity to do meaningful work that would have a real impact across the different specialties in the legal department. Two, getting to know each of the attorneys in the legal division and learning about their careers. And three, getting to learn about LACERA and the important work that we do here. I think it's safe to say that it's been a very successful summer on all fronts. I want to thank all the attorneys in the LACERA legal division, as well as disability litigation, who took the time to really mentor Jasmine and Aprajita. A special thank you to Susan Wang and Zach Meth, and a big thank you to Irene Saucedo, our division secretary, who played a huge part from beginning to end. And to Jasmine and Aprajita, on behalf of the legal division, I just want to say that it was a pleasure to work with you. We think that you have a bright future ahead, and we hope you stay in touch. With that, I'll pass it off to Jasmine.
Thank you for your kind words, Jean. And good morning, Chair and trustees. My name is Jasmine Finn. I'm excited to share a bit about my summer legal internship with LACERA. Over the past few months, I've had the opportunity to explore several legal areas, and I'm grateful for the breadth of exposure and mentorship I received from LACERA's legal division. So to start with a little facts about myself, I grew up in Chongqing, China. That is a city known for its spicy, strong flavor food. I came to the US for college and graduated from Beloit College, a liberal arts college in Wisconsin in 2023 with a degree in English and a minor in philosophy. I'm currently a JD candidate at USC Grove School of Law and will be joining the Southern California Law Review this fall as a staff editor. Next summer, I'll be working at Deckard in San Francisco, likely in their financial services and investment management group. Over the summer, I had the privilege of working on projects in transactions, litigation, benefits, disability, and legislation areas, which gave me a well-rounded understanding of how legal issues arise and are addressed within LACERA. My work in transactions focused primarily on investment-related projects. One of the assignments I worked on was reviewing a non-disclosure agreement under the supervision of Susan Wen. I revised the NDA draft from the disclosing party using LACERA's NDA checklist and precedent agreements, which helped me understand the legal nuances behind the confidentiality provisions. Also, with Advocate Rescue, I participated in a call with outside counsel about a prospective private equity fund investment and reviewed a limited partnership agreement and side letters. From this assignment, I learned basic concepts of private equity and funds. Finally, I attended a presentation by outside counsel on registration affecting U.S. outbound investment. It was fascinating to see how involving geopolitical regulations could impact LACERA's investment decisions. In legislation, I worked with Steve Bryce to research on statutory liabilities that could support a writ of attachment and research on process of action grounded in implied contract or quasi-contracts. Based on my research, I drafted a memo analyzing the viability of pursuing attachment under a government code section 1090 claim and a fraud-based claim and addressing the alter ego issue. This assignment required me to navigate novel legal arguments and help improve my skills in legal research and writing. I also worked on the felony forfeiture case for Jessica Rivas. I reviewed grand jury transcripts with her to identify facts that show the charged member was acting within the scope of his official duty at the time of offense. This assignment gave me insight into how criminal charges can affect pension eligibility. Lastly, I observed depositions in employment litigation matters under the supervision of Jasmine Bath. The observation helped me learn about the procedures of depositions and the inquiry strategies used by experienced counsel. In benefits, I shadow Elaine Salem in reviewing dissolution judgments and domestic relations orders. I learned how retirement benefits are allocated during dissolution and how LACERA ensures compliance with community property laws. Also supervised by Jean Kim, I conducted research on the issue of whether there are any limitations on the use of the retiree judge subsidy, and I reviewed secondary legal sources, Attorney General's opinion, and relevant California and federal case law. I would say I wouldn't have had this opportunity to dig into these areas if I hadn't been a LACERA intern. So I really appreciate that Jean and Elaine give me these assignments. And then the disability assignments I got were particularly rewarding because of the direct impact on individual members. For the project I did for Frank and Allison, I wrote a memo making a recommendation on whether to grant service-connected disability benefits and apply the laws of heart disease presumption for law enforcement workers. In other projects, I conducted a procedural conference for a self-represented disability applicant. Under Jason Waller's supervision, I walked the members through the pre-hearing and hearing procedures for disability appeal. It was a meaningful experience for me to explain complex legal procedures in an accessible manner to our member. And lastly, in legislation, I attended SACR's legislative committee meeting with Barry Liu, in which we discussed the cost impact analysis of Assembly Bill 1383 and legislative strategies for promoting financially sustainable pension plans across several systems. I also helped Barry review case law and conducted research on the issues of reciprocity and disability retirement. The projects I did with Barry really helped me see how the legislative process works, as well as LACERA's efforts in promoting legislative changes. Through this internship, I've gained invaluable exposure to how LACERA operates as both a pension administrator and a government agency. Specifically, I learned how the legal division uses expertise to help the board make decisions to protect the long-term interests of LACERA's members and to perpetuate LACERA's mission of public service. For me personally, I've developed significant skills in lawyering, professionalism, and communication. So I'd like to thank everyone at LACERA who mentored me and made my experience so meaningful. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much. I know some of the trustees are going to have some comments that they want to make, but why don't we go to intern number 2 first, and then we'll save the comments for the end. Is it Aparajita?
Good morning, trustees. Today, I will be sharing my summer legal internship at LACERA. My name is Aprajita Pathak. I'm currently a rising second year at the University of San Diego School of Law. And prior to attending law school, I earned my bachelor's degree in political science from San Jose State University. And directly upon my graduation from San Jose State, I was admitted into the Capital Fellows Program as a judicial fellow, which is a 1-year-long full-time role in the field of court administration. And through this program, I also earned a graduate certification in applied policy and government from California State University, Sacramento. And I was placed as a fellow at the San Mateo Superior Court, where I engaged in research, public policy development, legislative analysis, and community outreach initiatives, all to advance the judicial branch's mission of access to justice. And I knew after that role that I wanted to pursue an area of law with an organization that was mission-driven and public-facing, which is why I was incredibly excited about the legal internship program here at LACERA, because of the strong values, missions, and goals this organization is driven by. And moving forward, I hope to stay engaged with a public interest area of law. I was fortunate enough this summer to work with all of our different legal divisions. And so for the rest of this presentation, I will share a high-level summary of the impactful projects I was able to collaborate on with each attorney. With our transactions team, I was able to work with Senior Staff Counsel Christine Roseland on 2 projects. The first project was researching potential software solutions to audit our Form 700 submissions. Form 700s are forms for government employees to report any conflicts of interest they may have, such as other investments, properties, gifts, or other financial interests. And I believe that this project was incredibly significant because LACERA is now up to date on any new technologies in this area, and it also ensures LACERA's commitment to transparency on all levels by adding another level of security when reviewing the content of these forms. My next project was researching regulations implemented by the Securities and Exchange Board of India. I was able to research regulations that India has placed on foreign investments, specifically regulations pertaining to investment caps on public pension funds. I was able to produce a research paper with my understanding of how these regulations impact LACERA, with the hopes of this information being useful as a long-term resource for LACERA attorneys and staff. Next, in litigation, I work with Senior Staff Counsel Jasmine Bath and Senior Staff Counsel Michael Herrera. With Jasmine Bath, I prepared 2 legal memos related to an ongoing employment matter. I wrote about 2 civil procedure issues and provided a thorough legal analysis citing relevant statutes, case law, and practical considerations to answer the questions. The hope with this project is that I provided some insights that will help our attorneys make an informed decision as to case strategy. And this project was really interesting, not only because I was able to contribute my own research, but also because I learned how LACERA attorneys pay close attention to detail by doing their own due diligence on each detail of the case. And I also got the chance to watch 2 depositions with Jasmine Bath related to employment litigation matters, which was an incredibly insightful experience as I got to learn different deposition techniques and learn more about employment law. With Michael Herrera, I was able to do a research project related to a litigation matter. And for this project, I consulted with our member services staff. And this project was really interesting because I was able to learn more about the thorough retirement counseling that our member services team offers. And I was also able to produce more documentation and information related to the case. With our benefits division, I had the opportunity to work with all the attorneys in this area, and a special thank you to this department because the attorneys in this specialty were my direct reports and mentors all summer long. The first project I worked on with Zach Meth was reviewing 3 seminal cases that illustrate how the law has developed in categorizing which aspects of an employee's pay are considered compensation earnable under SERL or pensionable compensation under PEPRA. By providing a detailed yet digestible summary, the hope is that my work product will be used as a resource for onboarding new employees or for anyone that needs to quickly reference a case in the Benefits Law Resource Library. Next, I work with Elaine Salon staff counsel and legal analysts Karina Lopez and Hannah Hyun. I made updates to LACERA's publicly available community property guidelines by reviewing the current guidelines and then updating language that is outdated or incomplete to ensure that all information is accurate. And we were able to improve this resource, and it helps the public access critical information about LACERA, which is crucial for us as a public-facing organization serving members from a diverse range of different backgrounds. I also got the opportunity to shadow Elaine Salon in reviewing judgments and domestic relation orders when a member's pension fund is in dispute during divorce proceedings. I also got to collaborate with senior staff counsel Jean Kim by helping draft a memo that examined revised pay items that LACERA had previously made pensionability determinations on. We applied SERL and PEPRA to each pay item to analyze whether the original pensionability determinations still remain applicable. And I improved my own understanding of statutory interpretation because I was able to see the real life application of these statutes, and I was also able to support staff by drafting the memo. Next, I was able to work on disability retirement applications with senior staff counsel Allison Barrett and Frank Boyd. And I worked on disability retirement appeals with senior staff counsel Jason Waller. With our disability retirement team, I wrote a memo evaluating a member's service-connected disability retirement application. Through this, I was able to work on Government Code Section 31720.5 and learn about a code which recognizes that groups like firefighters and police officers face unique challenges in their line of work, and the physical nature of their work is taken into account when examining a disability retirement application. And I enjoyed this project because along with supporting staff by providing my draft, I was also able to learn more about the nuances of retirement law and how these statutes leave room for interpretation based on the job duties that are being considered. And I worked on an appeals memorandum with Jason Waller for service-connected disability retirement. I got to see the close attention to detail and care the appeals are given, as each aspect of the medical reports and history are taken into account to make a final determination. I also attended an applicant's appeals hearing and was able to send a detailed hearing report to describe the event and our next steps. Now, this experience has been incredibly valuable for a number of reasons. I was able to apply the legal research and writing skills that I've developed over the course of my 1L year of study. And I was also able to have exposure to a wide range of different legal issues and practice areas. And I felt like I was able to give back to the legal division by providing lasting resources to support LACERA's mission and values. I provided comprehensive support by working on multiple projects across all legal divisions. So thank you so much to all the LACERA attorneys, staff, and to the Board of Retirement for being so enthusiastic and supportive of this program. I truly could not have asked for a better internship experience, and I feel very grateful to have worked alongside such intelligent, hardworking, and kind staff all summer long. And so thank you all so much for your time, and we open the floor for any questions.
Great. I think the only thing that might come close to being as impressive as you two are is the fact that you have this amazing exposure to this organization from one side to the other. So Mr. Moore has his hand raised. Wayne?
Okay. I have a couple of comments. First of all, I'd like to congratulate or just recognize the staff in the legal department who took the time to make the internship experience meaningful and productive for the law school students who were able to participate in it. And I also want to point out that by us promulgating these internships out and having record numbers of people apply, we're providing information that a lot of students may not ever get or may not see, and have them develop an interest in working for a public pension fund that they may never even considered after they look at the solicitations or the announcements and see what really creative and active and interesting subject matter they could get exposed to. And then for the students, I would like to say, go back to school and make sure you tell everybody what a wonderful experience you had, and pump up the LACERA, of course, but also let them know that there are literally thousands of public pension funds around the country that have missions like ours, and that working for the public sector in this space, public pension funds, defined benefit pension funds, which are the gold standard of retirement in this country, can be an interesting, impactful, rewarding experience for you as an intern and as an employee. So thanks for all of your work in contributing to us, and I hope you take what you've learned and put it to good use.
Bobby, you're next.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and I echo Mr. Moore's comments to congratulate and really heartily thank the legal division. You provided an excellent program for these two interns. I was an summer intern before I became an attorney for LA County. My experience was nowhere near as meaningful as yours. The program was not, it was just kind of a thrown together thing. I think they were looking for people that they might want to hire later. Fortunately, that included me. But I'll give you an example. While you guys did these really substantive, important, meaningful things, one of the assignments that I was given by someone who turned out to only have been an attorney in the office a year himself at the time was to go through the California Government Code and count how many times the word county appeared in the government code. I began doing that and did about a day and a half worth, and I was up to, I don't even know how many hundreds or whatever. And I finally decided this is absurd. So I just made up a number and gave it to him. Fortunately, nobody found out about that. But the real interesting part of that story is some 20 years later, I became a manager and he reported to me. And it was many years before I shared with him the fact that he had given me this really awesome challenge when I was still in law school. So I share that because I want you to fully appreciate. I know you are appreciative and you've expressed that, and that's wonderful. But you need to know that your experience is very, very special. And just like I remembered 50 years ago, I had to count how many times the word county was in the government code. You guys are going to remember these things that you did. It's your first work product. Keep copies of it if you haven't already. I have a couple memos that I wrote back in the dark ages where we didn't have computers and I didn't have access to a typewriter. So my work was all like handwritten scribbles that I turned in memos to the senior lawyers I was working with. So keep that stuff. You can share it with your grandkids someday, like I've done with mine, and they'll look at you and roll their eyes. But in the long run, they'll still remember what a great journey you had through your career. So thank you very much to everybody, and congratulations to the two of you. Good luck in your coming studies.
Pauline?
I agree with everything already said, so I won't belabor it. I don't think you ladies were in here the other day when we were talking after you left. We were talking about what we did as interns, just like Trustee Fessler just mentioned, and I got to do photocopies. So comparatively, this is just unbelievable. Until I got a law job as a law clerk, I did nothing substantive. So I'm really happy that you got a good experience here and that it wasn't a waste of your time. And that shows us that our staff is doing, not our staff, but LACERA staff is doing the right thing. And you'll probably get an exit memo or exit interview. Please be honest with any feedback you have, because we hear all the good. We know all the good. We're so happy you have so much good. We need to hear areas that we can improve so that the next round of people has a better experience, and ideally it gets better and better and better. So thank you. Wish you the best of luck. Good luck taking the bar. I heard it's only 2 days now. We had to take a 3-day bar. But anyway, I'm sure you'll be fine. And let us know. Keep in touch. Let us know how you do.
Thank you very much. Best of luck. Item CQK are all information items, so we're going to move on. They're just reports. We're going to move on past them, go to item 11, items for staff review. Do we have anything?
Nothing.
Nothing. Items for future agendas?
Nothing.
Nothing. Good of the order. We will start with Mr. Oakham.
I tell you, that was, sorry, I walked out at the end. That was an outstanding presentation, and I'm not sure the way they were treated is if they can improve very much. And I mean, we can improve very much because they sounded like we did a great job for them. You know, nothing else is going on. Pasadena is staying strong, and the Altadena fire victims, that's got to be, I've got a bunch of friends, and I'm sure, Sean, you know a bunch of people up there, or probably a bunch of sheriffs lived up there, and they're starting to rebuild. I hope the county can respond quickly to them and get the building quickly. I know on some blocks that 4 or 5 houses have started, and I've got some friends that are deciding whether they're going to sell. You know, when you're 65, 68 years old, you don't want to take 3 years to build a house. Now you're 70, 71, and but if it was me, I would rebuild. I think you're going to get a great house. Insurance companies seem to be working quite well with the victim. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Oka. Ms. Proft?
Nothing. Thank you.
Ms. Langton?
Thank you. Just wanted to say it was nice to see our CEO, Santos Kryman, here this morning, doing well, up and walking in his suit. So wishing him good wishes on his continued recovery.
Thank you. Mr. Root?
Good.
Mr. Kehoe?
Thank you. I would like to ask that we adjourn today for the 3 deputies who passed away in the tragic accident at our Biscaluz Center. Detective William Osborne, 33-year veteran. Detective Joshua Kelly-Ucklin, a 20-year veteran. And Detective Victim Limas, a 22-year veteran of the department, all 3 with our arson explosives detail.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. Mr. Green?
I just appreciate all the work by staff. You know, the presentations by the intern, I think there's a symbiosis. You guys had a different experience, but it seems like LACERA got a lot of work out of them too. So which is good. So yeah, good work on that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Ms. Raza?
Just a couple of things. I work at a hospital, and we've already been affected immediately regarding the stuff that we went over through the legislation. And so, yeah, it's very informative, all the details that we received today. And I'm considering going with Barry the next time he goes to Washington, because that is something that I'm very interested in. And also I want to congratulate John Grable. He received the recognition for the top 100. Nope.
Yeah.
Right? That's awesome. So congratulations to him. That's a big accomplishment. And
he's on vacation.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Send him a letter.
Yeah. He went yesterday.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
So all I can do is echo all the previous comments, but I do want to really shout out the legal staff and the interns. Very, very impressive what they have done, and the fact that the legal staff really took this seriously, and it's just such a great opportunity for them. I know they appreciate it, and I appreciate the fact that you took so much time, put so much heart into this project. So thank you very much for everything everyone did.
Thank you. Ms. Fessler?
Just echo everyone's good wishes and thanks to the staff. The presentation on the impact of the legislation that was signed into law on July 4th was very, very impressive. I have followed that legislation closely, but I learned a lot today beyond what has been available just to the average citizen reading news reports about it. And so I appreciate the work that our consultants did on that. And again, thanks to the legal unit. You guys really, really went over and above, and it's very, very appreciated.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
I particularly liked the presentation on the federal legislation, especially healthcare, because I think it's important for us to be attuned to and on top of those issues, because they do have a significant impact on us on both sides of the aisle within our organization. That is in benefits, but also in, the investments we have in the healthcare industries. And it's particularly important from my perspective that we pay attention to all this effort on fraud, abuse, and cost reductions, because it's all of those companies that we're invested in that significantly impact us on both sides of that, on the benefit side and on our investment side. So I look forward to going back to Washington and seeing if we can't get in front of Senator Cassidy and or his staff to just talk about what kind of things they're working on to push their legislative agenda on controlling healthcare costs.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Louis?
Yes, thank you. And again, appreciate all the trustees' comments. A few items. One, a challenge on Mr. Oakham. I think we can improve the intern program by expanding it. So offering more internships, and that's certainly something that we're going to focus in on. And again, thank you to the legal division, Gene Kim in particular, for coordinating and really providing good mentorship support to our two legal interns. Also, just hiring, promotions and hiring briefly. The Financial Accounting and Services Divisions has 3 promotions from Accountant 1 to Accountant 2. Edward Wong, Savag Antabian, and then Claudine Jacosalam. We congratulate them on their promotions to Accounting 2s. And then we have a new hire, Jacqueline Yang, from as an Accountant 2 to the General Accounting Section, Reporting and Compliance. So congratulations to them. And lastly, I appreciate trustees' adjournment. Certainly our thoughts and prayers on the LACERA side with the families, friends, and colleagues of the deputies. So thank you.
And I failed to mention that LACERA was just outstanding with the feedback from the family and from the department. LACERA stepped up day one and helped out. So truly appreciate everybody's support. JJ, yourself, really appreciate it.
Thank you. And Mr. Robbins?
Last but not least, before we take a 15-minute break, we'll come back into closed session This morning at the Insurance Benefits and Ledge Committee meeting, we had a brief discussion, and the topic of the lifetime cap came up under the Anthem Blue Cross too. And it was pointed out that even though it went up to $1.5 million effective July 1st, thanks in significant part to Mr. Kryman's efforts, we had somebody who fell through the cracks. And the bottom line is we can never completely predict the delay that our people get when healthcare providers, doctors, hospitals, and medical groups wait forever to send their bills in. And this particular individual had bills that they didn't know what they were. So she's going to end up paying for a month's worth of bills where she exceeded the $1 million cap before the 1.5 million came in. Cassandra's staff did a great job of trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. But when there's a delay in your billing and we can't control that, it could create some problems. So hopefully it will not be an issue down the road because we'll get the thing wiped out completely. But yeah, and this individual ran up a ton of bills in just ran up over $500,000 in less than a month. So sometimes those bills can add up real quick. So let's take a 15-minute break and then we'll be back in closed session.
Recording stopped.